Have you ever noticed the strange emptiness that follows when you lose a role you thought was a permanent part of who you are? What if the identity you are desperately trying to hold on to, a job title, a relationship status, a position of authority, is the very thing stealing your peace? Most people do not realize that the heaviest burdens we carry are not our failures, but the past versions of ourselves we refuse to let go of. If you have ever felt lost, invisible, or emotionally exhausted after a chapter of your life unexpectedly closed, this is for you. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may change the way you see this pain forever. It happens so quietly. We pour our time, our energy, and our souls into a specific role. Maybe it was a career that gave you a deep sense of purpose. Maybe you were the caretaker, the strict leader, the provider, or the one everyone relied on to fix their problems. For a long time, this role felt like your absolute foundation. It gave you an easy answer to the hardest question in the world. Who am I? You were the manager. You were the partner. You were the expert. But then the wind shifts. The company downsizes. The relationship ends. The children grow up and move away. Suddenly, the role is simply gone. And in the quiet aftermath, you are left staring at an uncomfortable silence, wondering who you are without the title that once made you feel so important. Buddhist wisdom teaches us a profound and challenging truth about this specific kind of pain. Attachment causes suffering, but not just attachment to physical things or to other people. The most painful attachment is often to an image of ourselves. Buddhism reminds us of the law of impermanence, that nothing in this shifting world is meant to remain frozen in time. Imagine a hand tightly gripping a delicate, beautiful glass ornament. The tighter you hold on to protect it, the more likely it is to shatter under the pressure, eventually cutting the very hand that meant to keep it safe. We do this with our roles. We grip them so tightly, weaving them so deeply into our core sense of self, that when life inevitably removes them, we feel as though our very spirit is shattering with them. Think about your own life. How much of your self-worth is currently tied to how others categorize you? When you meet a stranger, what is the first thing you use to define your value? We live in a society that constantly asks us to prove our worth through our daily output, our status, and our utility to others. We chase promotions, seek constant validation, and build towering walls of importance around us to feel secure. But when those walls collapse, we are left completely exposed. The anxiety, the overthinking, and the deep grief you feel in that loss is not just about losing a daily routine. It is a profound crisis of existence. You are grieving the illusion of permanence. Ask yourself right now, what past identity are you still secretly holding on to? Are you carrying the heavy ghost of a title that no longer belongs to you? What are you afraid will happen if you simply let it fade away? Pause, breathe, observe the thought of this lost role without following it down a dark spiral of sadness or fear. Let the feeling of loss rise in your chest without making it your permanent identity. Stop trying to force the door open. You do not have to chase what is already leaving, because true peace is not found in building a stronger, more impressive identity. It is found in realizing that you are not the roles you play. You are the quiet, steady awareness behind them. But stepping off the stage of importance can feel incredibly terrifying when you have spent a lifetime performing. And this is where the next truth begins. 2. The empty stage. What if the silence you fear so deeply is actually the peace you have been searching for all along? Here is a truth few people want to face. Stepping out of a role of importance often feels like stepping into a dark and empty void. When we are stripped of a title that made us feel powerful, necessary, or seen, the immediate aftermath is not relief, it is panic. We wake up in the morning, and the urgency that used to drive us is simply gone. The calendar is blank. The problems that once required our immediate attention belong to someone else. The people who once constantly sought our approval or guidance are navigating life without us. And in this sudden quiet, a profound restlessness sets in. You might find yourself checking your phone for messages that are not there, replaying old decisions in your mind, or desperately trying to inject yourself into situations just to feel useful again. The empty space feels heavy. It feels as though being unneeded is the exact same thing as being worthless. But in Buddhist thought, this sudden emptiness is not a punishment. It is an invitation to clarity. The mind, driven by the ego, constantly craves validation. It survives on being busy, on being important, on being the center of the story. When the applause stops, the mind panics because it equates stillness with non-existence. Yet, one of the deepest lessons of Buddhism is that the noise of our worldly importance often drowns out the quiet truth of who we actually are. Mindfulness teaches us to sit with the uncomfortable silence of not being important and to watch the mind's desperate attempts to create new drama without getting swept away by it. Imagine an actor who has played a powerful ruler for so long that he refuses to take off his heavy crown when the theater finally closes. He paces the empty, dark stage, shouting commands to an audience that has long since gone home. He suffers deeply, exhausted and confused, because he believes the play is his reality. He does not realize that the performance is over. He does not see that outside the dusty theater there is a vast, beautiful world waiting for him to simply walk out the door and breathe the fresh air as a normal, unburdened human being. We do this in our modern lives all the time. You might lose a position of influence, retire from a lifelong career, or transition out of being the relentless caretaker for your family. But instead of resting in the newfound space, you wander the empty stage of your mind. You mentally argue with old colleagues. You compare your current quiet life to the busy lives of others. You try to force yourself back into the spotlight because you have forgotten how to exist without an audience. Ask yourself right now, are you still reciting the lines of a chapter that has already closed? Are you exhausted from carrying the weight of a crown that no longer serves you? Is your desperate need to be needed bringing you peace, or is it feeding your anxiety? Pause, breathe, step off the stage. Allow the silence of the room to hold you without rushing, to fill it with new obligations. Let the feeling of being unrecognized rise and fall without making it your enemy. You do not need to prove your existence through your exhaustion. You are not losing your true value. You are simply shedding an illusion. You do not need an audience to exist in peace. But learning to stand in the quiet reveals how much energy we spent maintaining the disguise in the first place. And this is where the next truth begins. 3. The weight of the mask. What if the identity that made you feel so strong was actually the thing exhausting you the most? Here is the truth that is hard to accept. Maintaining a rigid sense of importance takes a massive amount of invisible energy. The tighter you hold on to who you think you must be, the more you suffer when life asks you to change. Over the years, we slowly build a persona. Perhaps you became the expert, the savior, the unstoppable achiever, or the one who always had the answers. You convinced yourself that this role was your true self. To keep this image alive, you worked longer hours, swallowed your own doubts, and hid your exhaustion. You believed that if you dropped this mask, even for a moment, you would lose the respect of those around you. We become terrified of being seen as ordinary. So, we carry the weight of expectations, completely unaware that the role that once empowered us has slowly become a prison. Buddhism reminds us that the self is not a fixed, solid thing, but one of the deepest lessons of Buddhist wisdom is the relief of non-attachment to our own self-image. When we cling to a title, we are clinging to an illusion. Letting go of this illusion is not a defeat, it is the ultimate relief. The ego wants to be heavy, solid, and undeniable. But peace requires us to be light, fluid, and adaptable. Imagine a tired traveler who has worn a suit of heavy iron armor for so many years that he has forgotten what his own skin feels like. The armor served a purpose once. It protected him through fierce storms and difficult battles. But now, the war is long over. He is sitting beside a quiet, peaceful river. Yet he refuses to take the armor off. He is so used to the weight that he believes the iron is a part of his body. He suffers under the scorching sun, unable to feel the cool breeze or the gentle touch of the water, simply because he is too afraid of who he would be without his defenses. We wear our professional titles and our self-imposed obligations just like this heavy armor. You check messages in the middle of the night to prove your dedication. You bend over backward to maintain the image of the perfect provider or the flawless leader. You carry the stress of a role long after the workday is done or long after the relationship has shifted. And when the role is finally taken away, you feel deeply exposed, when in reality, life is simply offering you a chance to put the heavy iron down. Think about your own life. Imagine, for a moment, a reality where the feeling of pride in your status was completely removed. What if you did not need to feel important to feel whole? What heavy mask are you still forcing yourself to wear every single day? Pause. Breathe. Notice the physical tension you carry from trying to uphold an image. You do not need to defend your existence. Let the armor fall to the ground, because you were never meant to carry the weight of the world forever. You do not have to perform to be worthy of peace. But realizing how heavy the mask was brings us face to face with the terrifying emptiness of who we are without it. And this is where the next truth begins. 4. The fear of becoming no one. What if the fear of being nobody is the only thing keeping you from being truly free? Here is a truth that is terrifying to the mind, but profoundly healing to the soul. You do not need to be important to be worthy of peace. When the heavy mask of our identity finally falls away, what we feel is not immediate relief. We feel an overwhelming, paralyzing fear of becoming invisible. When you have spent years building an identity, being recognized feels like oxygen. You become accustomed to being introduced with a string of impressive titles. You get used to the respect, the authority, or even simply the predictable routine of being the one who matters in a specific environment. When that role disappears, a deep, silent panic sets in. You begin to wonder, if I am not the leader, if I am not the provider, if I am not the successful one, then who am I? We equate being ordinary with being a failure. We dread the idea of walking into a room and having no one look our way. We are deeply terrified of fading into the background. In Buddhist thought, this fear is completely natural, but it is rooted in an illusion. The mind desperately craves a fixed, permanent identity to feel secure. It wants to point to a title and say, "That is me, that is permanent." But Buddhist wisdom teaches us that clinging to the idea of being someone special is a heavy chain. The desire to be endlessly recognized is a trap that keeps us endlessly anxious. True liberation begins when we realize that our worth is not tied to a temporary label. Letting go of the need to be someone important is not a loss of self. It is a profound expansion of it. Imagine a powerful rushing river. For hundreds of miles, it has a famous name. It has carved deep canyons, providing water for cities, and moved massive stones. The river feels incredibly important, but eventually it reaches the edge of the vast, endless ocean. As the river pours into the sea, it loses its name, it loses its distinct shape, it loses its boundaries. To the river, this might feel like disappearing. It might feel like death, but it is not dying. It is simply becoming the ocean. It is trading the exhausting boundaries of its old identity for boundless, quiet freedom. In our modern lives, We fight so hard to remain the river. We scroll through social media, watching others constantly update their status, announce their achievements, and prove they are still relevant. We feel a crushing pressure to keep up, to keep climbing, to make sure we are not forgotten by our peers or our industry. When a chapter closes, we panic because we feel our defined edges dissolving. We think we are disappearing into nothing, when in truth, we are finally being given the chance to just be. Ask yourself right now, why does being ordinary feel like a failure to you? What is so terrifying about living a quiet, peaceful life, where you do not constantly have to prove your worth? Is the fear of being forgotten bringing you peace, or is it keeping you trapped in a cycle of exhausting performance? Pause, breathe. Observe the fear of disappearing without letting it control your actions. Let the thought of being unrecognized rise, and then watch it drift away like a cloud passing over a vast sky. You do not need to announce your existence to the world. Your worth is not measured by how much space you take up in the minds of others. You can simply exist, breathe, and be alive. But to fully embrace this quiet ocean, you have to be willing to look at what you see when the water finally stills. And this is where the next truth begins. 5. The river and the reflection. What if the person you have been looking for is hidden beneath the image you have been trying to protect? Here is a truth that is difficult to sit with. We rarely see ourselves clearly. We spend our entire lives looking at our reflection in the roles we play, believing that the image staring back at us is who we truly are. We build our self-worth on the constant feedback of the world around us. If you were the successful executive, you saw your value in the respect of your peers. If you were the relentless caregiver, you saw your worth in the dependency of your family. You used these roles as a mirror, but when the role inevitably ends, the mirror shatters. You wake up to the quiet reality of an ordinary day, and suddenly, you do not know who is looking back at you. You feel profoundly lost, not because you have vanished, but because you have spent years identifying only with a temporary reflection, rather than the deep source beneath it. Buddhist wisdom teaches us a profound distinction between the changing surface of our lives and the unchanging depth of our true awareness. We suffer deeply because we mistake the temporary conditions of our lives, our careers, our social standing, our youth for our permanent self. Buddhism reminds us to cultivate the mind of the silent observer. Through non-attachment, we learn to watch these temporary identities form, shift, and dissolve without tying our absolute worth to them. Imagine a quiet, slow-moving river flowing through a wide valley. On its smooth surface, it reflects everything above it. In the bright morning, it reflects the brilliant golden sun. In the afternoon, it reflects heavy, dark storm clouds. At night, it mirrors the pale, quiet moon. The river is constantly wearing these different images, but the river itself is not the sun. It is not the storm. It is not the moon. If the sky goes completely dark and there is nothing left to reflect, the river does not cease to exist. It does not panic. It remains exactly what it has always been: deep, flowing, and completely whole. In our daily lives, we confuse ourselves with the passing weather of our careers and relationships. You leave a position of authority, and you believe you have lost your power. You step away from a demanding routine, and you believe you are suddenly useless. You scroll through the loud, curated lives of others, comparing your quiet, unreflected life to their shiny, busy surfaces. You panic when your own surface feels empty, desperately trying to find a new title, a new project, or a new drama, just to see your reflection again. But an empty surface is not a crisis. It is a rare opportunity to finally feel the depth of the water. Ask yourself, have you been defining your entire worth by the reflections on the surface? When you strip away your job title, your daily achievements, and the way others categorize you, Who is the quiet presence left experiencing life? Are you afraid that without these reflections, you are nothing at all? Pause. Breathe. Look past the surface of your own thoughts. Let the temporary reflections of who you used to be drift away. You do not need to constantly prove you are here. You are the deep water, not the passing clouds. You can exist perfectly in the stillness without needing the world to tell you who you are. But to fully experience this depth, you must stop fighting the silence and begin to see the hidden joy in not being noticed at all. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. The freedom of anonymity. What if being ignored is not a punishment, but a profound kind of liberation? Here is the truth we spend a lifetime running from. The gaze of other people is a heavy burden to carry. We convince ourselves that we want to be seen. We want to walk into a room and be immediately recognized. We want our phones constantly buzzing with questions, our advice deeply sought, and our presence acknowledged as vital. When a major role ends and that constant stream of attention vanishes, the abrupt silence feels like a physical ache. We feel discarded. We mistake the quietness of others for our own irrelevance. We feel hurt when colleagues stop asking for our opinion, or when family members learn to solve their own problems without us. We view this sudden anonymity as a tragic loss of status, a sign that we no longer matter. But in Buddhist thought, the desperate desire for recognition is one of the heaviest chains the mind can wear. Buddhism teaches us that when our peace relies on the applause of the world, we are forever held hostage by the world. We are never truly resting. We are always performing. One of the most beautiful yet difficult lessons of non-attachment is discovering the joy of being nobody. It is the realization that when no one is actively watching you, evaluating you, or needing you, you are finally free to just be. The ego despises being ignored, but the spirit thrives in the quiet. Imagine a striking, colorful bird kept in a magnificent golden cage in the center of a busy, noisy palace. Every day, people stop to admire its feathers and demand to hear its song. The bird feels incredibly important. It believes its entire existence is meant to please the crowd. But one evening, the cage door is left open and the bird flies out into a vast, silent, endless forest. Suddenly, there is no audience. No one is clapping. There is only the bird, the immense open sky, and the quiet rustle of the trees. At first, the bird feels profoundly lost and insignificant. But then, a realization dawns. It no longer has to sing on command. It can fly in any direction it pleases. The loss of the audience was the exact price of its freedom. We live so much of our modern lives trapped in golden cages of our own making. We curate our existence on social media, starving for the applause of absolute strangers. We overwork ourselves to the point of illness just to hear someone say, "We are indispensable." We hold tightly to exhausting relationship dynamics just to feel deeply needed. And when you finally step down, or when life gently pushes you out of the spotlight, the cage door opens. You feel lonely at first because you miss the familiar noise. You feel anxious because no one is demanding a performance. But look around. You are out of the cage. The sky is yours. Ask yourself right now, who are you when absolutely no one is watching? Are you terrified of the quiet forest? Or are you ready to finally stretch your wings? What would you do with your days if you no longer had to impress a single person? Pause. Breathe. Let the desperate desire to be seen drift out of your mind. Stop reaching for the bars of a cage that is no longer locked. Observe the silence without trying to fill it. Because true peace is not found in being remembered by everyone. It is found in finally remembering yourself. But stepping into this vast, quiet freedom means navigating a period of complete darkness first. And this is where the next truth begins. 7. The seed in the dark. What if the darkness you are sitting in right now is not an ending, but a place of profound beginning? Here is a truth that is incredibly difficult to see when you are in the middle of a major life transition. The space between who you were and who you are becoming always feels like absolute nothingness. When a major role ends, when the career is over, when the children leave home, when the title is stripped away, we enter a disorienting, quiet phase. We are no longer the important, defined person we used to be, but we have absolutely no idea who we are supposed to be next. In our modern world, we despise this waiting period. We call it a failure. We call it being stuck. We feel a crushing pressure to immediately reinvent ourselves, to find a new grand purpose, to quickly replace the old title with a new one, just to feel productive again. The waiting feels like suffocating in the dark. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound value of patience and the natural rhythm of impermanence. Everything in existence has a season of active growth and a season of quiet rest. Letting go of a past identity is not an instant event. It is a slow, unseen unraveling. Buddhism reminds us that emptiness is not barren. It is bursting with quiet potential. We suffer so deeply in these transitions because we demand eternal summer, constant output, and immediate answers. We refuse to respect the winter of our own lives. Imagine a small, hard seed buried deep beneath the heavy winter soil. To the outside world, absolutely nothing is happening. The surface is quiet, cold, and still. The seed itself might feel trapped in the suffocating darkness, surrounded by dirt, completely stripped of the warm sun. But in that absolute darkness, a vital, unseen transformation is occurring. The old, hard outer shell is slowly breaking down. It must shatter completely, dissolving into the earth, before the delicate new shoot can finally reach upward. If you forcefully dig the seed up just to see if it is growing, you will destroy the very process of life. We do this to ourselves constantly. You lose your defining role, and within days you are panicking about your lack of direction. You scroll through the internet, comparing your quiet, confusing transition to the polished, busy highlights of others. You feel profound guilt because you are simply resting. You feel like a failure because you do not have it all figured out. You try to force a new, impressive identity before the old shell has even finished breaking away. You keep digging up the soil of your own life, refusing to trust the quiet process happening beneath the surface. Ask yourself right now, are you trying to rush your own transition just to feel productive again? Are you judging your quiet season as a failure? What would happen if you simply allowed yourself to sit in the dark without forcing an immediate answer to who you are? Pause. Breathe. Stop trying to dig up the soil to check on your progress. Let the confusion be there. Allow the old shell to break away completely. Do your part by simply existing today, then release the desperate need to know what the final flower will look like. Because true transformation does not happen in the loud, bright moments of constant achievement. It happens in the quiet, unseen depths, where we learn to surrender to the unknown. But surviving this dark season requires us to find something deep inside us that never changes, even when everything else falls away. And this is where the final truth begins. 8. The unchanging center. We began this journey by looking at the sudden, strange silence that follows when a chapter of importance unexpectedly closes. We looked at the profound grief and the quiet panic of waking up one day to find that the title you built your life around is simply gone. For so long, you believed that your worth was entirely tied to what you could provide, how hard you could work, and how much others needed you. When that role faded, you felt as though you were fading with it. But as we have seen, the pain of this sudden loss is not the end of your story. It is the beautiful, necessary dismantling of an illusion, Buddhist wisdom teaches us that underneath the shifting weather of our daily lives, underneath the titles, the responsibilities, and the heavy expectations of others, there is an unchanging center. The roles we play are just like clouds passing across a vast, endless sky. Sometimes the clouds are dark and heavy with the storms of a demanding career. Sometimes they are bright and light with the joy of a new relationship. But the clouds are always moving, they are always changing. The sky itself, however, remains completely untouched. It does not fight the clouds. It does not try to hold on to them when the wind inevitably blows them away. It simply provides the quiet space for them to exist. For years, you believed you were the clouds. You spent all of your energy trying to control the wind, trying to hold the storm in place, terrified of what would happen if the sky finally cleared. But the truth is, you are not the temporary weather. You are the sky. When you finally realize this, the heavy iron armor you have been wearing can drop to the floor. The empty stage is no longer a place of panic. It becomes a place of profound rest. You stop fighting the darkness of the soil, knowing that you are merely in a season of quiet transformation. You realize that separating your identity from the roles you play is not a tragic loss of self. It is the ultimate reclamation of your true spirit. Think about the immense freedom waiting for you in this realization. You no longer have to perform to justify your existence in this world. You do not have to be the strongest person in the room. You do not have to be endlessly productive to be worthy of love, respect, and deep inner peace. You can simply exist. You can wake up, look out the window, and feel completely whole, even if no one is watching, and even if no one is clapping. Ask yourself right now, what would your life look like if you finally accepted that you are already enough, exactly as you are? What if the peace you have been desperately chasing for decades was patiently waiting for you to simply stop performing? Pause, breathe. Feel the quiet space inside you that has never changed, regardless of what title you held or who walked away. Let the desperate need to be important dissolve into the quiet joy of simply being alive. You do not have to carry the heavy ghost of your past identity any longer. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. You can let go now.